Hello! Hi, everybody! Welcome to the stream. Oh. Oh. Let me just make sure everything is looking good. Everything looks like it's looking good. Hey, everybody. This is the countdown stream for, gosh, Thursday, November 7th, 2018. Currently nobody's in the chat, but who knows? People will come up any minute now. So, this is the video. It comes out for anybody who is new to this and this is their first time watching. This is a video that I do, a stream I do in the hour before a new video comes out. We chill. I answer some questions, hang out with folks, and at the end of the show, a new Step Back video comes out, which is really exciting. I can already see Nathaniel SX, Ron, and Michael Kirshner. Your audio is bugging out. What? First stream since the clock change. Yes, last weekend we had our... Well, no, we had the one on Tuesday as well. Hello, David. Okay. I'm getting that the stream status is good. All right, cool, cool, cool. So how's everybody doing? How's life? How's the world these days? Everything is perfectly fine, right? We are nothing to be worried about these days. We're having a very normal, we live in a very normal world right now. Oh boy. Let's take a look. Did you hear about Ginsburg? Yes. Yes, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, 85 years old, had a fall, and she broke some ribs. Poor lady. Just shows that, like, you know, it's kind of weird that the future of, like, democracy in the world is sort of contingent on an 85-year-old, like, this, like, frail 85-year-old woman, and that, like, basically all that keeps America from becoming a fascist dictatorship is this 85-year-old woman staying alive. It's so weird. It's so, so weird. He taught you how to focus and push pain out of your body. Oh, geez. Okay. So Nathaniel has a question. Does it feel like we've gone back to 1973, meaning either Nixon's Washington or Pinochet's Santiago? I think that the moment that we're in right now feels a little bit older than that. I'm very much in the mindset that this is feeling a lot like the 1930s, where we have a decade plus of economic stagnation and recession and economic hard times for a lot of young people who basically have come to the conclusion that capitalism has failed them, and now we're trying to find solutions. And some people are going into the dark embrace of fascism, and some are becoming socialists, and, you know, life is very confusing. I've been watching lots of this show on Netflix called Vikings, and it's very fun, but then they keep talking like this, and sometimes it's hard not to get addicted to talking like Norwegian. Jeez, Ron, you were bedridden for a few weeks? That sucks. Oh, jeez. How's everyone else doing? So you could say Mussolini's Rome or Stalin's Moscow. I would probably say the only difference between now and, like, the 30s in the West is that I feel like in the 30s there was maybe a little bit less support for fascism and a little bit more support for socialism. So Something makes me think that this one, it seems like the Nazis have the upper hand and the socialists are the ones lagging behind, which is not the best position to be in. Yes, there was also a mass shooting that happened in California last night that right away people like Paul Joseph Watson were trying to spread false information that this was a Middle Eastern person, and it turned out very quickly to be a white dude, which, you know, we really need to be a little bit, we need to be cautious about. Why is it that all of these mass shooters are white dudes? I don't know. Something about white dudes need to get, I think there was like a line from the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt where, like, there's this older guy who was just like, what is it like white dudes are like the number one, I don't know what it is about their culture, but it causes them to have, to commit all these weird, freaky crimes. All right. All right, let's see who can, let's answer some questions. So, Lil Wayne wants to know what the best ContraPoints character is. Oh, geez. I probably would put, like, you know, my favorite is definitely Lady Foppington / Lord Foppington. That's my favorite ContraPoints character. But I would probably say that, you know, Tabby's where my heart is, but Foppington is just a fun character. So yeah, that's an exciting thing. Who's the best ContraPoints character and why is it Tabby? It sounds like that was like what the question was. Tabby's pretty cool, but like... Tabby's supposed to be like a sort of ironic character who's then been taken unironically. It's like, there's a few times where it's like this happens and like these kind of runaway characters. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, guess what Horrors is? Made the Tabby emoji for our Discord server. But I think that we should give more love to the Foppingtons. I feel like the times where Natalie uses the Foppington character when talking about like the ridiculousness of like race science, or the like in the Jordan Peterson video with the like, what's it called, with Lady Foppington like defending the like aristocracy against the lowly, like just to show like how sort of the argument that Jordan Peterson makes is so like weak. It's great. Lords, ladies, and all those who lieth betwixt. All right. Isaac, what do you think of Slavoj Žižek? Not much. I mean, he's kind of funny and he's kind of memeable, but like Slavoj Žižek is, let's see, he defends some of the worst things that happened under communist regimes. He's a supporter of, first of all, he kind of is he's a super class reductionist. He's Islamophobic. Like, he's the one who wrote he wrote the whole thing about like the left-wing argument for Eurocentrism. Can't say I'm on board for those things. And also supported Trump in like an accelerationist mindset. And I was just like, yeah, no thanks. I don't need Slavoj Žižek's ideas, thanks. It's fun to make fun of him for being like a sneezy, drooly, and show-on type person. So there's that, I guess. Yeah, I feel like Slavoj Žižek acting as like a as an accelerationist is like, it's because you're not the person who's going to get who's going to be victimized by the oncoming fascism. It's going to be people of color, Muslims, LGBTQ plus people, you know, anybody but Slavoj Žižek. And so, yeah, my issues with him are also fairly similar to the issues that I have with, like, you know, what's it called, Zero Books, with their sort of attack on intersectionality and not liking, like, having this sort of white male focused class reductionism type thing. And it's very, like, male ego shit. I'm just not fun with that. How are you doing today? Well, proper Wolfie, that's a good question. I wake up. It's all right. It's all right. Don't if this might be proper Wolfie's first time in the stream, so you know, I think that's okay. I like new people. So how are we doing today? Well, things are going well for me. Today's sort of a slow day, but my wife is getting a 4-day weekend this weekend, so I get to spend the next 4 days with her after today. I also joined a D&D campaign, and I joined a D&D campaign that I'm starting today, and I think that I'm excited to get started, and that'll be good. And let's see, what else is pretty good. I hate that it's like kind of dreary and overcast. I'm kind of over this shit, but here we are. But yeah, so far so good. It is still only like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so who knows how things could go. I did not like waking up to hearing that mass shooting happened and that the shooter was in a very racist fashion identified as being Middle Eastern. It's just as someone who is a very big proponent of or a very big activist trying to stop Islamophobia, that's good. Oh, yes. That's another thing I should probably mention, is that I got a really cool email about my next big Step Back video, where somebody who... I'm not going to give away too much or say too much about things that haven't happened yet, but I got an email back and forth with somebody who is a holder of the Order of Canada, who is at least considering an interview and watching a few videos that I sent him to possibly be in one of my do an interview for one of my videos, which I think is super cool. Sunflower Socialist, what's the most embarrassing thing in your room? Well, let's take a looky here. Let me know if you guys can't hear me, but all right. So this is my curio cabinet right here. I would probably say up here there's like some weird StarCraft and Warcraft stuff. I will say the most embarrassing thing though is this, which is a Breaking Bad Walter White in his underwear from the first episode type thing. We'll go with that. But sometime we should take you on a tour of the curio cabinet, because there's a lot of fun stuff that I collect in there. Yeah. There's all sorts of fun things that are up there. Sometime I'll take you through it, because if you look, you can probably see that right there is an Aztec calendar. There's a Mayan Chacmul, and if you can see that little white thing, that's a Mayan calendar. And then there's like some Star Wars stuff. There's some models of the World Trade Center, and all that kind of stuff. I did and yeah, proper Wolfie, I in 2010 I was really into StarCraft 2. So that was I think I went to like BlizzCon 2009, and they gave me, if you can kind of see the bottom of it right here, that's a Jim Raynor like model thing. Okay. All right. Broodgore J. Or Budgore J? Yeah, I was really into StarCraft 2 in 2010 and 2011. I think basically me going off to university in 2010 really killed it. So 2010, when it was like in beta, was basically like my peak StarCraft 2 time. Did you hear Antifa broke Tucker Carlson's door down? That is good. That is fun. Proper Wolfie, how would you describe your political views? Yeah, I there are two ways that I would describe it. I mean, the most common one that I would say in here is anarcho-communist, you know. But I am a full proponent of creating my fully automated luxury gay space communism. And anything that I can do to get us to fully automated luxury gay space communism is my number one goal. Yeah. Let's see. The GSL is the GSL still around? I thought that GOM TV went under. Either way. How would you, yeah, who's worse? Jordan Peterson, Steven Crowder, and Ben Shapiro. Jeez, that's like a fuck, marry, kill, isn't it? All right, let's see. So Jordan Peterson is bad. So Jordan Peterson's badness is that he's like an old-timey Christian, but he like basically adds all of his like kind of paleo-conservative views in like the language of being against social justice warriors like myself and hating trans people and like all of this stuff. He's very slimy and smarmy, and probably out of all those people has the largest platform because like Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro, like I know people who like Steven Crowder who are maybe not evil, but they're just dumb and don't pay attention to the things that they consume. But Jordan Peterson has a huge platform, and as somebody, I think I have to choose Jordan Peterson because not only does he get the most amount of mainstream credibility, but like he like lives in the same city as me, and you guys are probably exposed to so much stupid Jordan Peterson shit on the internet, but like Jordan Peterson gets like op-eds published in the Toronto Star, and like we have a show called The Agenda that's on our local access cable, and Jordan Peterson's on that fairly often. And so we got way more of his bullshit living in Toronto than like outside. And so Jordan Peterson feels like he's a more everyday part of my life. Steven Crowder is an easy person to like. I honestly don't give a shit about Steven Crowder. I don't even know anything about him. Nobody ever brings him up as an argument or anything like that. He doesn't seem truly pernicious. I just know these are really good. Like whenever I get a nasty comment from somebody and they're like, "Oh, you just like I'll just go on to." Very often when I get nasty comments, I go and look at their channel profiles to see what kind of channels they're following, so I can get an idea of like what is the shit side of the internet these days. And Steven Crowder's pretty high on there. That's a sign like, oh yeah, this is a shitty person, and this is a person I can shadow ban on my channel and not feel bad about. As far as Ben Shapiro seems to like, I feel like he's doing his own side disservice for the most part. All I've ever seen Ben Shapiro talked about is, like, he's a joke. People make fun of him all the time. I've never seen anybody who's like, man, like, have you heard about this like amazing argument by Ben Shapiro? Like, no, he's like a joke. Steven Crowder I don't hear about at all. I just know that he's like a right-wing hack stand-up comic who has a podcast where he like smiles and nods when he invites all of the fascists on. But like, you know, there's a million of those on the internet. But Jordan Peterson actually goes out and has like big book deals and goes on TV and says like horrible shit. So I'll go with Jordan Peterson to answer that question. He is like the #1 person for like mainstreaming, like, far-right. Like, he's starting to he makes, like, far-right stuff feel more mainstream and normal, which is not good. I did hear that Ben Shapiro was on, like, oh, geez, okay. I did hear that PewDiePie got Ben Shapiro, which, like, sort of is, like, the ultimate confirmation that PewDiePie's a shitty person. But, like, we already knew that. Yeah. I feel like Ben Shapiro is, like, always an example of, like, someone from the right who's, like, laughably bad, but really only exists because they're so rich that they can just, like, buy their platform. Did the weed already arrive? Gares, yes. Yes, I believe I think it was, like, not this week, or maybe not last week, but the week before. No, it was last week. On Step Back Tonight, I actually unboxed it. So go and watch the episode of Step Back Tonight that came out on Halloween, or the day before Halloween. And in the first half, I unboxed the cannabis, so you can go and watch all of that. Is Ben Shapiro on the same level as Sarah Palin? I think kinda, yeah. Alright. Is it a good idea to self-identify as a social justice warrior? Sure. Like, I don't understand why it's a bad term in the first place. Like, Ben, like, I don't know, he's just like social justice warrior sounds like you're a person who's fighting for social justice. Like, I don't see why this is a bad thing. It's just that it's been turned into a smear word by the right, and it's like, fuck that. I don't give a shit. I care about social justice. I don't give a fuck what, like, the radical right says. And I put on my my Twitter profile says I'm a social justice barbarian because I feel like that fits the most. So yeah, I self-identify as a social justice barbarian, but I think that the Swigalian SJW, like, line on the internet is starting to lose its sting already, so might as well just have fun with it. I feel like if anybody uses the social justice warrior term as, like, an attack word or as a smear, it's already kind of just been dragged through the mud, and it's kind of pointless. But yeah, definitely social justice plus D&D class. Please tag yourself, everybody. World of Warcraft class works too. Please do it in the chat. Yep, social justice paladin, social justice priest. These are all good. Wonderful. Social justice kineticist. Oh boy. Someone's been playing Dark Sun. Okay. Okay, so let's do, I'm very sorry, Sunflower Socialist. You can just do this, you could just do Social Justice Warrior then. Social Justice Symmetra main, yes! Alright, if you don't play D&D or World of Warcraft, you can definitely use the hero that you main in Overwatch. Which I am totally down for, because I feel like being a Social Justice Lucio is, like, one of the baddest ass things ever. Yeah, I'm totally down with being a Social Justice Lucio. Social Justice Lucio main. Where you just have the aura that helps people out, and you just, like, get to, like, zoom on walls and shit. It's good. Alright, Budorj. What would be some good people to recommend to centrists to try and convert them to leftism? If they're not transphobic, I do think that ContraPoints is probably the best person to take a centrist and make them leftist. I feel like out of everybody who's doing stuff on YouTube, at least, that she's the best. She's, like, probably at least pretty high on the, at least on mine. Because she talks to the centrists, she knows, she meets people in the middle a lot more, but also doesn't shy away from talking about the stuff. Like, I'm trying to think, like, I think like the ContraPoints video, How to Recognize a Fascist, is a pretty good one, or Why White Nationalism is Wrong, or Tiffany Tumbles, or the sort of prequel to Tiffany Tumbles, which was the talk show format video that she did where she had herself playing Fritz and herself playing a Jewish professor on the same show. Those kinds of things. All right. How do you feel about centrists calling for civility in the face of an actual fascist takeover? I think they are wrong. I think that they are being complicit and that they grew up. I mean, it makes sense if you think about it. A lot of people who grew up in the age of either like the things that we're dealing with haven't been pressing. Like fascism hasn't been a thing in this big a way in almost 100 years, and we've lived in a time of relative. Trying to think about how to phrase this, like relative blindness to the issues of the day and thinking that things were a little bit low stakes. Like, think about like baby boomers. They grew up in the Washington Consensus and then had literally every single thing made easy for them their entire lives economically. They've never had to deal with like neo-Nazis and things like that. And then, you know, they hear like, you know, they've had like 90 years of, or, you know, they had the 1990s where everything was about civility and selfishness and all that kind of stuff. And so, like, these sort of fundamental cracks in the way the world works are completely foreign and alien to them because their West Wing-based concept for how politics works doesn't pan out in reality. And now their sort of bubble of privilege around it is sort of cracking and they don't really know what to do. It's very nice to see that Lil Wayne is in my chat. I very much like some of your music there, bud. All right. If you get a proficiency in Spanish, I recommend a political channel called Quetzal. He's a really great speaker. I'm not actively working on my Spanish right now, sadly. Okay. Is it true archaeologists, early archaeologists used to deny that the Kush were really black? Definitely, like in the 19th century, they did because they could not believe that black people could make such impressive civilizations. And yeah, they had their whole theory of race and stuff that really that blinded them to a lot of the truth about archaeology, especially of sub-Saharan Africa and Eastern Africa especially. And so yeah, there was a time when they thought that the Kushites were Middle Eastern. And that they immigrated or they moved down into Somalia from in Sudan, sorry, from the Middle East, and that turned out to be very, very wrong. Jeez, okay. Let's see. What's the next question we can get here? Are you informed about the political situation in Italy? Not really. I don't really know. The last time I knew anything about Italy, it was when Silvio Berlusconi was still like in charge. I don't think that's true anymore. I don't know what's been happening since. Okay. Given how Republicans, conservatives depend on breaking and bending rules via gerrymandering and voter suppression, should the opposing party just break the rules to avoid catastrophe? Yes. I do think, in general, yes, that should happen. Because the left right now has, in America at least, they have the popular support. Like, with gerrymandering and voter suppression, the reason they're doing it is because Democrats would win every election if all of the votes could be counted and everybody could vote. So, honestly, anything that Democrats would do to bend the rules and break the rules and stuff like that would be breaking and bending the rules in order to enable more democracy. Which, like, you know, you really, if you think about it, is definitely a justified way to be on top of, like, to, I don't know how to say it. It's a justified way to commit civil disobedience. So, yeah. I think that Democrats, especially today, are so, they govern on, because they make so much money off of basically not supporting the issues that their base cares about. They care more about norms and methods rather than, like, values and interests, because they think that they'll lose their big ticket donors, and so the Democrats are kind of paralyzed in that sense. But it means the Democrats are going to keep losing because Republicans can appeal to their base while also appealing to massive corporations, and Democrats can't. And the way that Democrats realize this, when they realize that appealing to massive corporations is never going to be a ticket to long-term electoral success, then they'll really, you know, they'll lose. Oh yes, definitely, Ron. I should definitely shout it out. That statement I just said was a summary of the latest episode in the alt-right playbook from Innuendo Studios. So yeah, don't credit me for that, but you know, go and watch all of the alt-right playbook. It's such a good series to kind of talk about this current moment. Okay. There's a reason history books deify Martin Luther King while diminishing the role of Malcolm X / Black Panthers in noncompliance. I think that Lil Wayne, even saying that, like, I think that the way that the political establishment deifies Martin Luther King is not, it's very non-conducive to Martin Luther King. Like, it's very much not the way Martin Luther King was. Martin Luther King was way more radical. There's a lecture, like, I used to teach I used to be a TA for a U.S. history course. And during when we talked about the civil rights movement, the professor, he's a friend of mine, he's really, really good. He would do this, he'd do this lecture for the civil rights movement where he would talk about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And he would show that, one, Martin Luther King was more radical than people make him out to be. And that the narrative that people tell about Martin Luther King is overly sanitized and strips him clean. The other narrative, the other mainstream narrative about Malcolm X being a dangerous radical who couldn't listen to who had all these radical ideas and wouldn't listen to reason, is also misleading, and it is made to make Malcolm X look less reasonable than he is. And that actually Malcolm X had very logical goals and plans, and for the most part was a very good black activist and a very good, like, speaker for the black community. And he did a lot of very good and very strategic things. And he didn't hurt the civil rights movement. He did a lot of good things for the civil rights movement. And so I think that both of those leaders, I know you didn't want to come off as not liking Martin Luther King. I think that this is just an interesting thing to jump off and talk about these black leaders because they're both really important. I think that they're both, they both had a important role to play in civil rights. And yeah, I think that history gets both of them wrong in a lot of ways. And I think that it comes to the fact that Martin Luther King was easier to sanitize, and it was easy to use Martin Luther King to attack uppity black people who like they can take the part of Martin Luther King's work, strip out the part that doesn't fit their narrative, and then use it to cudgel black people who try to fight for their rights. When, like, you know, if Martin Luther King were alive today, he would be a huge supporter of Black Lives Matter, and he would be he'd be there, and he would have been there in Ferguson on the front lines. Like, yeah, like, no, like the right is ridiculous. Okay. Should Ireland be united? Honestly, that's up to the people of Ireland. From what I know, the people of Northern Ireland really don't want to join the Republic of Ireland, and nationalism is a canard, so I don't know. Honestly, if the people of Northern Ireland want to join Ireland, then they should feel free to do so, which I imagine that if they did, they would be able to. Or at least they could at least try. But no, I don't believe in taking a group of people and unwillingly forcing them to join another country. What's CRTV? Is this a new PragerU bullshit? If Marcus Garvey was alive today, what do you think he would be doing today? Who knows? I can't speak to them. What do you think of the excuse of Trudeau against the MS Lewis? I don't know what the MS Lewis is. Maybe I haven't paid much attention to what's been going on in Canada politics in the last couple weeks. Have you played Red Dead Redemption 2 and do you like it? I haven't ever played any Red Dead Redemption games because they haven't come out on PC and I don't have any consoles. Well, I do have a console now. I have a Nintendo Switch, but I don't think Red Dead Redemption, any of them, came out for the Nintendo Switch. And the last console I had before the Nintendo Switch was a PS2. So I think that I missed out. And until Rockstar starts making the Red Dead Redemption games for PC, I'm probably not going to play them. Have you heard of the YouTuber Rich Penny? He's really good from Canada too. He's new to YouTube. I have not heard of Rich Penny. I'll do a little searcheroo for it. The MS Lewis is a boat full of World War II refugees who got refused by Canadians. That sounds fairly likely. We were pretty shitty back in the day. Yeah, Rich Penny's not showing up on YouTube search, so I'll have to get a link later, I think. You can post in the Discord or something. Do you think Thought Slime's presentation style is too confrontational? No. Thought Slime, I think somebody in the chat said correctly. Thought Slime is bae. Thought Slime is like my YouTube best friend. So, nah, he good. He good. He good! Okay. Let's see where we could go. Even people on poll are accepting Florida and Texas will be solidly blue by 2024. They call it the last... Well, yeah. That's been something that people have been talking about in the news. That's something that people have been talking about in political science circles for decades. So, like, yeah. No, I like, what's it called? Like, that's not a surprise. If anything, the last election just showed that it's becoming more and more true. So yeah, by 2024, I think people have been calling that Texas will become a purple state pretty soon, and it's already pretty purple. All right. How do you feel about Michael Moore and his work? Michael Moore was probably my introduction to radical left, or to the radical left. He's not a radical leftist. I would probably put him as a social democrat, but he was definitely the person, like his movies. I think the Bowling for Columbine was like the first documentary that sort of pushed me to become left wing. And basically, like, I read a bunch of Michael Moore's books and I watched a bunch of his movies. Kind of got less interested as I got older in his stuff. Like once I stopped being once I was probably about 17 or 18 years old, but definitely in like the early 2000s, Michael Moore was like the person who sort of pushed me into becoming a lefty. And I mean, I can't blame him for that. I thank him very much for setting me on the right path when I was a teenager. So, Isaac Gown, what's your favorite dish? I am a very simple person to make happy. I have a hard time choosing my favorite thing, but I think that, like, I'm a sucker for butter chicken, which is like a kind of Indian dish. I mean, I say it's an Indian dish, but it's like basically like the most like white person friendly Indian food you can get, and I just love a good see you later, Night Watcher. I am a huge fan of butter chicken, and I could eat it any day of the week and be happy. Spicier the better. I grew up on Indian food, so I think Indian food is amazing. I love curry. I love freaking even though I don't like onions that much, onion bhaji. I like naan and like friggin' mango lassi and like, oh god, it's all good. It's all good. Indian food is if you have not had Indian food, it is the best food. As a metalhead, Tristan, what do you think of the general state of Canadian metal right now? Christos, I have not been following. Oh man, samosas, golden pelt. How did I forget samosas? As far as Canadian metal goes, I actually haven't been into metal. Probably, like, I still listen to it from time to time, but, like, I haven't been, like, a metalhead, metalhead, and since I was, like, 18, 19, so, like, it's been about a decade since I kind of got out of it. I honestly don't follow music very much at all anymore. Yeah. Chicken butter sounds delicious. It's butter chicken. It's good stuff. Do you know Batco and do you like him? I don't know Batco. I've seen the name. I know that it's a nickname for Nestor Makhno, but I know that there's also a YouTuber named Batco that I think you're probably talking about, and I don't really know. I don't know much about him. There's too many left tubers now for me to follow along. I can only watch so much YouTube in a day, friends. And I honestly am very much a, like, I'm very, very choosy about who I subscribe to. I like to keep that number as low as I can, so I'm always, like, I like, almost on a quarterly basis, like, purge my, my subscriptions and get rid of people who I'm not really watching anymore. Oh my. Sorry, it's a bit noisy outside, but it's a nice breeze. It is great that there are so many left tubers. I think it's great that there are there was a time when I was first starting on this website where I could be subscribed to pretty much every single left tuber, and there weren't that many. But now there are so many that I don't really follow it. I can't really follow it all anymore, and so I just follow the ones that are, for the most part, I follow the ones that are friends of mine or the ones that, you know, everybody needs to be following. Which, by the way, the best, let's see, who are some of my favorite left tubers are the ones that I'm friends with. So here are the ones that are, like, I consider, you know, acquaintances or buddies of mine, and I follow them, and that's Ollie, who does Philosophy Tube. There's good old Thought Slime. There is Natalie with ContraPoints. There's Peter Coffin. Angie of Angie Speaks is a good one to follow. American Johnson of Non-Compete is a good one. Oh my, I feel like I'm going to miss. I'm gonna miss so many important ones. Innuendo Studios is one that's growing on me. Lindsay Ellis, good one. Although she doesn't really do a whole lot of like overtly political stuff. Shannon Strucci getting more political these days, but still film review. I am not homies with Sean, but Sean is definitely a channel you should be following. Sean is very hard to get a hand on. H Bomber guy, Harry's a buddy of mine, so like, you know, we're getting there. Okay. I wish I could be homies with Sean, but even amongst like the left tube creators, like Sean is like notoriously hard to get a hold of. Hibaru-san, have you heard about the protest at Tucker Carlson's house? Good or bad idea? I think it's a great idea. I think that people like Tucker Carlson, who are actively spreading hate and vitriol and making the world a worse place by the things that they are putting out on the waves, should have reminders that they are doing stupid, horrible, careless, evil shit that is making the world worse every single time they leave the house. Even better, anytime they stay in the house. They should always be reminded that the thing that you are doing right now is hurting people. And those people are right there. So, like, I think that you should be, like, Ted Cruz should have every single dinner interrupted. I think that, honestly, in a perfect world, Tucker Carlson would have protesters camping in front of his house day and night. Like, yeah. Just keep going. What's your opinion of Tito? He's a brutal dictator. Like, come on. What's your favorite subreddit? I think my favorite subreddit, I mean, aside from like the ones that are like obvious like subjects, like the Stellaris subreddit I like a lot, and there's a few other ones. I think my favorite subreddit, and this is gonna be that like at least is a little bit of a surprise, I think is it is Simpson shitposting. It is a great. It is my like. It is Simpson shitposting is like I will go on like little binges where I'll just watch a whole, or I'll just go look at Simpson shitposting for a while. After the they announced that Chapo Trap House is also a really good subreddit. But after they announced that Apu was going to be like written out of The Simpsons, there was a bunch of racist shit on Simpsons shitposting, but once that passed, I think, like, once, like, they were all kicked out, I think that Simpsons shitposting is still really fun. Maybe it's because I'm old, and I feel like the difference between millennials and Gen Z are basically the Simpsons and Gen Z. I think the difference between them is basically the Simpsons. So I'm perfectly happy. I love it. I love it. I also think Gamer Ghazi's a pretty good one too. Although I don't follow that one nearly as much, so I can't really, give it too much attention. I don't really follow any association football there, Sunflower Socialist, sorry. I've not heard either of Azure Scapegoat either. Alright. What is Lefty Poll and what do you think about it? Isn't it a politics board on 8chan that says it's left-wing, but it's basically a bunch of tankies and it's full of like class reductionists and people who are basically openly like it's full of all of the same misogyny and racism that you'll see on B, but like, or on Poll on 4chan, but they claim to be left-wing instead of right-wing. I think I like literally in my fascism video called out Lefty Poll because Lefty Poll was being shitty with their dumping on identity politics stuff. Like, I honestly don't see that much difference between Lefty Poll and their anti-identity politics, pro-tanky stuff, and like B or 4chan's poll board with its like open white supremacy. Like, I mean, yeah, racism. It's bad. Sexism is bad, no matter what wing of politics you want to slap onto it. Have you read Proudhon? Have you read Gramsci? Isaac Gown? Girthax, what do you think of Apu? I think that the Apu leaving The Simpsons is a good sign that, like, you know, The Simpsons is too old. Like, I feel like it's a show that's lost its cultural relevance decades ago. And have you read Luxembourg? So like I feel like Hank Azaria and Apu are an example of like something that would have flown and been funny and even slightly progressive for like 1989, but you know, now that it's in its like 29th season, showing that it's a show that's a little bit of its time in the late 80s and early 90s, and maybe, just maybe, should go down gracefully before it gets too embarrassing. Because like the fact that you're getting into like the fact that it's been on the air for so long that like you have people losing, like you have people dying, like they had to kill off like characters over and over again because actors have quit or retired or died. The fact that like I feel like it's just like before you end up trying to do a season like with like half of the cast gone, maybe it's just time to just let the show die a dignified death. But I feel like it's just going to keep, now at this point, it's just going to keep going on, limping along until The Simpsons, or until like Fox gets bought up by Disney and Disney cancels it. Like I feel like The Simpsons is just going to keep going until somebody big one of the big voice actors dies or quits or retires, and they're not going to be able to do the show anymore. Like one of those like 2 or 3 people who voice like half the show. Oh my, so many questions. If The Simpsons is going to continue, though, then The Simpsons needs to have like a complete redesign from scratch. Like it needs to really rethink the format because it's getting really long in the teeth. And to say it's getting long in the teeth is a gross understatement. It is like one of the most overdone shows in history. And I do think that if you're not going to kill it, you need to do some serious. You need to seriously do an shake it up and change stuff. Because I don't know who's watching it. I don't know who's still watching The Simpsons. Sorry for that. I'm just yeah. So what do you? So I do think that Apu is Apu by the standards of like 1987, 1988, 1989, and the early 90s is an example of like actually like fine. It's progressive characters. It was you know good to have at least an attempt at some sort of representation like that. But by today's standards, it's just not going to fly anymore. It just shows. It doesn't show that the show is bad or that it was like, you know, that it was bad at its time. But it's just like, it's old. It's been done. It's a relic. It's like, it would be like, imagine all of the gender inclusivity and like anger that would be around if like I Love Lucy was still on the air. Like no one like it's just of a time that no longer exists. All right, I think my my throat's starting to go, but we have a few more questions left. Am I a coward for being afraid of the revolution because I'm not confident I'll survive it? No, I think that everyone should be scared because I think that if we ended up in a violent revolution, not only would lots of people die, and you would be in trouble, but also many of your friends and family members are also be in trouble. And in a violent revolution situation, you would probably end up with the most violent and authoritarian taking control of things, and you would end up with a brutal authoritarian state because violent revolutions in the long term never work. And so, yeah, I definitely would also fear a leftist revolution because I feel like I'd have to be sympathetic to the revolutionaries while also not getting involved. I'd probably be one of the people who leaves. Opinion on Jeb Bush. I mean, his politics are awful, but like he seems like I love the Jeb Bush winning every election memes. Those are my favorites. So I guess Jeb Bush has made some good contributions to the world by the meme where he wins every election. And the less it makes sense, the better. I think I'm starting to get sick. All right. Speaking of The Simpsons, do you feel like Burns is an out-of-date, bigoted caricature of the rich? After all, Bruce Roner only stole candy from a baby the 4 times. Very good, Ron. Oh, man. Do I need a cough drop? I need water. I'm going to get some water after this is done. Has The Simpsons jumped the shark? The teacher's voice passed away a few years ago. Yes. I think that, like, there's the fact that there is an intense academic debate about what precise point The Simpsons jumped the shark. But the consensus, I think, for most people is around season 9. So and also that the show really finds its feet around season 3. So honestly, like, at the beginning of the show through season 9, you're in pretty good hands. The jump the shark moment that most Simpsons nerds agree is the time when the show put out a bad episode and kind of the show never recovered, is the episode in which Principal Skinner turns out to be Armin Tanzarian and is not actually Seymour Skinner, and basically, like, ruins everything. And, like, after that, like, that episode was bad, and that from that episode onward, the show never really recovers. But seasons 1 through 9 are just gold. And if you haven't watched The Simpsons, go and watch those seasons, because they are so good. So good. Oh, man. The Simpsons is still a show that, like, if I'm ever in a bad mood, I'll just, like, put on a bunch of episodes and I'll just, like, you could just zone out. But yes, if anybody wants to make memes out there that'll make me happy, it's just Jeb winning elections that make no sense. So if you want to constantly make me happy, just keep doing that. See you later, Isaac. All right. Gandalf the Filthy Commie. Do you think? What do you think is the best way to spread left-wing ideas? I think that we need to sell a message, and we need to stop telling people what they can't do, and start telling people about what leftist changes would allow them to do. We need to, like, right now, the left has sort of a reputation of being a bunch of angry moralizers who tell people that they shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that. When leftists should basically tell more of a narrative that's about how we want to make the world better for people, and we want to, like, you know, we want you to go to the doctor and not to pay for it. We want you to not worry about where your next meal is going to come from or how you're going to make rent. We think that those are not things that you should be worrying about. We should make the world. That's why I love the fully automated luxury gay space communism story. I think that would be perfect. Thoughts on South Park? Honestly, I don't have high opinions of the South Park people. They're just kind of hecklers, and they don't really. They're like that guy that you knew in undergrad who was like the devil's advocate and was contrarian and was like, "Oh, I just make fun of everybody equally. I'm an equal opportunity hater." But then, like, you ask them if they have any actual opinions or any thoughts about anything, and they don't. Their entire they have this whole thing where instead of having an actual position, in order to look in order to appear intelligent, they just criticize others and they don't actually propose anything themselves. I Love Lucio. Yes, horror. I Love Lucio would be a great show. What advice would you have for somebody who's just starting to research the Aztecs and Mayans? Read Lockhart. Read The Nahuas After the Conquest. It's probably the best book about the Aztecs you'll ever read. Is there any way to achieve socialism completely, legally, and peacefully? If not, what should we do and be careful of? I don't have a really good, solid answer right now. I don't think anybody does. I think that we should be intellectually exploring ideas and trying to develop new ways to change things. I like the idea of building a new world in the guise of the old, like taking the world and making things a little bit better. All right, I'm almost done. I have 3 more questions, then I'm gonna end the stream because it's already 2 o'clock. The video's already up, so if you want to go, you can go watch that. Was there a civilization in the Americas before the Native American tribes? No, there was not. Well, there were other Native American tribes that existed before others, and they were pushed out or something like that. If you could poison a conservative alt-right person whose legislative decisions could kill thousands of people without getting caught, would you? Jeez. This kind of comes to like the thing where it's like, if you had the Death Note, would you use it to kill? Would you use it to like wipe out the conservatives? And I've gone back and forth on that, but I think for the sake of saving people's lives, I think you'd have to. And Michael Kirchner, what do you think of Bill Maher? I think Bill Maher is a racist, Islamophobic, right-wing asshole. Okay. A new video is out. Let me just get you all the link. Just getting you the link right now. Here is the new video, and I hope that you guys have an amazing week. There will be another stream on Tuesday, so stay frosty, friends. I'm just, all right. You'll enjoy it. It's a breakdown of the last election.